Yeah, I was just reading a comment asking about buildings, putting them in from Sketchfab, and I was kind of just looking in here real quick to see what was in here, and there's a lot of stuff in here. This is more like cartoon looking, but I kind of like that. You know, when you make stuff cartoony, you don't have to worry about how real it looks because it's a style of cartoon type style. But anyway, I'll download this to see real quick, just kind of like what all would be involved. This won't be like a tutorial so much as it'll be, kind of just get an idea. Like when I get these things, look at them and say, okay, well, this is what I got to do to get it in the beam. So I usually get the glyphed GLTF if they have it, and it all depends. When you get these things, man, they can really be they can really be a lot of work. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're not really much at all, but I think this is going to be kind of modular, so I'll probably be a lot of individual things. I don't know. I'd gotten one before from here that it was like a factory warehouse kind of thing, but it was so modular that it was like building the thing out of Legos. It was like a lot of pieces, and I said, no, I don't want to do all that. That's a little too much building. Um, what am I doing? Extract. Alright, yeah, so this is already opened up and there's a lot of textures. As long as none of them are named anything that the game already uses, you probably don't have to worry about renaming them. And if they're not procedural textures and they are just basic color textures, color maps only, which these all say base color. So it doesn't look like there's any normal mapping or anything else in there. But you don't have to use that stuff anyway, that just to make it look better. But you really wouldn't probably need that on cartoony type stuff. So we'll load this into Blender, and that's a speed bump I made a little while ago. Well, I didn't make it. Someone else made it. I just scanned it into the computer. As a kind of a crappy speed bump. Really, though, it's not very good. It's not really a distracting thing to run over it, so it doesn't really do its job. People can still fly over it. A good speed bump, you don't go over it fast. You'll tear your car up. This thing you wouldn't even feel that hardly. Alright, let's import that thing in here and see what we get. Import GLTF. There's a GLTF exporter in Beam, don't you? It's in the user interface. You can add it in there, and it says experimental, but you can export the cars into Blender from there. And you'll have the textures when they get into here, so it's kind of nice. Alright. Merge vertices. If you ever get something that's a glyph, you'll merge them vertices, or you're not going to be able to do anything with it. Like, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it, like reducing poly counts and stuff like that, because it'll start getting holes in it. Because the vertices aren't merged; they're just kind of like they're there, but they're not really fused together. That's the only way I know how to really describe it. Change that view so we can see farther out. And where is everything? It wouldn't be the first time I've got something from there, and damn, I gotta have more than that. That's a lot of distance. Let me import in the car from the game, because that looks awfully damn big. Let me see here. Let's import object. Import into DAE. Yeah, where's our car? There's our car right there. Yeah, man, this damn map's huge. This stuff is huge. Yeah, I thought it was. I should have to look 100,000 meters to see it all, and it still isn't showing it all. I don't think. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So can you scale it all down? Well, let's scale. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Sometimes it don't work great. Sometimes it does. I guess this time did all right. Let's get the car back here. Wherever it went. I don't know where it is now. Well, I don't know where it's at. I'll just import another one. That's better. It's still too big, but it's better than what it was. All them origins in there, they'd all have to be set to the 3D cursor. They're not now. They need to be, though. You'd have to set all their origins to it and apply all transforms. Because everything's got to swivel around 0, 0, 0, or it's not going to do right in the game. The collision meshes will be off, everything. It's got this XYZ all come together to make 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 here. And this thing, this blender and beam, they all know that as a universal place of 0, 0, 0. They all know 0, 0, 0 where it's at. So if everything's not set to that location, it's not going to look right. It's not going to scale right. It's going to be in the wrong place. Like, I added my own head to a dummy, and I didn't set the origin, so when it loaded, the head was like 12 feet too high up in the air, or however many meters, 2 meters high, and it's because the origin wasn't set. But this making me do all this in one damn export. Now these are all separate, you see? Even the windows are separate, and these different things are separate, but it doesn't have to be that way. As long as the UV mapping name is the same, which you go into here and you got the UV maps, as long as they all have the same name, you can merge them all together. If they got different names, then you got to change the names to be what the other one's name is. So to take this one thing here, just one big model, and just say, you know what, join it all together. But let me delete the other burn side. I don't want to join it. That's the wrong one. Don't matter. We're going to join it all together. So it's one mesh. And we'll get it centered. Yeah, 3D cursor's in the wrong place somehow. How's that possible? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong damn spot. I'm looking at damn dumbass. I'm looking at that. This is the pain in the ass part. See, this thing has all these different, all this shits and these different folders. This ain't gonna work in Beam. Beam ain't gonna know Sketchfab model. All it knows is something needs to be in the collection. It ain't gonna look in that. It does know the empty base 0, 0, but it don't know that. You'll get a no mesh probably if you try to export it inside of another empty that the game don't recognize. So you gotta move all that stuff out. Problem is when you move it out, it changes its orientations and sizes, and it can, well, I don't know a quick way of doing it. I don't know a quick way to get the stuff out and all in the right place without it messing up the stuff. So that's the only thing. Maybe I could export the entire thing as like an OBJ and import it back into the Blender as a one object, and it'd be easier to manage. But to get this stuff out, you got to sit there and find the models and all that shit. There's a lot of shit in there. You got to find the models, and you got to move them out of there if they're all separate. But I joined them all together, so maybe it won't be such a big deal. But that's just the kind of stuff that happens with Sketchfab. You know, it's like the way they group things, it's not going to work with Beam, and you got to. That's the only thing that's probably confusing me still to this day, is how this stuff is all thrown around in there and how it's supposed to be. See, that's how it's supposed to be to get the Beam, right? That'll be fine. But all that other stuff, that shit don't fly. It ain't gonna do that. That ain't gonna work at all. I don't know how to get rid of this stuff without having to go through and delete it all like that. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff, man. But I guess people prefer that for whatever reason. For whatever it is they're doing, they probably prefer it all to be separate like that. Man, it's taking forever to delete this stuff, man. Alright, that's actually it. I think we got it all. See how it's scene collection, and the 3D mesh? Yeah. If you're sending it to Beam like that, and you're going to use Visible Mesh Final, that's fine. You can do that. But you do need to check the orientation. If the orientation's wrong, then you're going to have inside-out objects, and they eat cars if they're closed meshes, and you go through them if they're not, but they also make the textures look very dark when the normals are flipped. Hopefully that's not an issue here. But to check that, you want to make sure you apply all your transforms if you've done any work in Blender, especially if you mirror things, because that'll flip the normals automatically. You'll go to these balls here and say face orientation, and make sure everything is blue. Now, everything's not going to be blue. You're going to probably see the back side of some things, and they're going to be red. That's fine. What you're concerned with is the parts the car is touching. If it runs into a building that's red, yeah, that's not going to work. Just for an example, just say it was driving over that section of road right there, right? And the normals are flipped. You'd see it look like this. They'd be red. And so what you need to do is either select all the faces that are red and go to Mesh Normals, Flip. I'm just going to undo because I don't want to have to make sure I get all that stuff. That door's normals flipped for some whatever reason. I flip them back around. I mean, that's only if you run into the door or whatever that is. If you run into it and they're not flipped, car will get stuck and it'll eat it. So yeah, you could check it, make sure, there ain't no more of them. There's another one. Or maybe you don't want that door at all in there. You can just delete it out the model. I don't know if there's anything in there. Maybe not. Probably not. But the walls will be inverted there because they're blue on the other side. And you don't want them red on the other side, so. Alright, that's good enough. Hell with it. Let's make sure the scale's right one last time. Let's get the car in here one more time and make sure. Object import in. DAE. Alright, alright. There we go. There's our car. And yeah, now it's a little, it needs to be a little larger than that. About right there, maybe. About right. I don't know. Let's move it by one of these doors. I can look at the door of a building and look at the car and say, yeah, if a person got out of the car, this is how tall they would be. Yeah, let's see if that looks right or not. See what I mean? Like, that's the door of the car. And you get right up there by the door there and say, well, if a fella got out that car and stood up, how tall would he be in relation to that? Well, he'd probably be about that tall. So that's pretty good, I guess. This is an art style, kind of cartoony looking map, so, or level, whatever you want to call it, model. You can name it whatever you want to name it. I'm just going to export it. Just make sure that's set and export as Kaleida. We'll go to the level, we'll go to, I don't know, I'll go to this map. I've been here in a while. You'll want to export it in its own folder. That way the game will make the base color maps. You have to put it in a folder that there's not already materials in. It doesn't add to them. It'll only make a new one. So you see how that's in there. You could also put it in the art folder if you wanted to, but it needs to have its own folder. You can name it whatever. And everything looks fine. I don't think none of them are already in use. If they are, then there'll be a conflict. Now this is just this model. I mean, I hope like a lot of the stuff in Sketchfab is not complicated, but sometimes it ain't. Sometimes it's really easy to get the stuff. And that's a low poly object, so I didn't even have to worry about explaining that, well, if it's high poly, you got to reduce the poly count. Yeah. You don't want to drive on high polys. That kills your performance, and it's just, you don't want to do it. Let's figure out a place for our city. I messed this ground all up, didn't I? Go back to where it looks normal. I guess right here be good enough as any place. Terrain, import asset browser. Now the asset browser finds your folder that your thing is in and pull it in. That was kind of cool, actually. Wouldn't you say? Well, I think so. You can always tell the terrain block to come up to mesh or down to mesh. Align up to mesh, and it'll bring the terrain block up to the mesh, as you see here, depending on what you're trying to do with it. Or you can tell it to go down to the mesh if you just want it to be below the mesh, like here. But that kind of works because it looks like the snow is on the fall in this city. It does kind of work, man. Sometimes things just do work out like that. Other times they don't. But this one, that seems to work pretty good, actually. Blending it in with the surrounding area. forgot that damn tool's broke for some reason. I don't know what the hell happened to it, but it just makes holes in the terrain now. It doesn't. It's not supposed to, but it does. And that's why I stopped working on this, man, because it's so hard to make stuff when you can't use that tool. That tool is like one of the most important ones in here. Unless you got all the time in the world and don't mind pulling up everything or whatnot. Yeah, it's supposed to be you pick a height. You pick a height, say, okay, flatten, set height, pick height, and you pick, say, right there, that everything should be that height. But instead, it's cutting a hole all the way to the damn infinity for some reason. And that I don't know why it's doing that. It's not supposed to be doing that. Yeah, I'd say I can't use it, or I just select everything at that height and build it up around it. But since I can't do that, then you got to pull it up, or either push it down into the ground and then move it the other way. Either way, you see, you got to blend it if you want it to kind of look like it's blending in. But that has, this does not look like it goes here whatsoever. So it's already kind of messed up. Go to the materials. Once you get it in here, you'll want to go to the materials for it, because none of it's going to have anisotropic filtering on by default. So you'll want to go through the different materials with this selected. Go through the different materials and tell each one to be anisotropically filtered. You might be able to. I don't know if you can. No, you can't multiple select. That'd be nice, but yeah, you can't. So you have to just go through there and do it. By the time you get done complaining about having to do it, you could have done did it. Oh man, I am the world's worst about doing work to get out of doing work. End up doing more work trying to get out of doing the work than if I just did it. Now, if you start making things in Beam and you think, well, maybe there's a better way to do it or a faster way, there probably is. The problem is it takes a long time to explore new ways of doing things, for me anyway. So I kind of just stick with what works. It may not be the best way, may not be the fastest way, but it's the way that worked for me. And we're almost done. And see, like that says red glow, but you know that's not really glowing. You could see it's not here. If you wanted to, I don't know what that is, red that's glowing, but let's see here. Let's change the time of day to it's darker. And what I'll do is change this to PBR 1.5, and in there, in the advanced, not the advanced, the advanced properties, turn the emissive red up to about 2000. Okay, it's those red lights. See how they're glowing now? You have to really crank the emissiveness up very high, or you won't get that bloom effect. And also, you got to have bloom enabled. So yeah, that's what I would do. Just little things like that can help improve it. Also, cartoony stuff is notorious for being too dark in certain places. Like, have you ever seen a person make a dummy, and the dummy is like a superhero, like Spider-Man, and they look dark as hell? Well, it's the game lighting's not great. So to compensate for some of that, like with cartoon stuff, you need to convert to PBR 1.5. Let me show you one. Let's see. Let's pick one of these. Let's find one in here. Hopefully we can find it, a texture for it. Fish Factory, laundry mat. Where's the laundry mat? I mean, this one don't look bad. This one's fine, but some of them, they can get really dark, and it just looks too dark. I don't know where that laundry mat's at. What I was going to say is find it, you can go to PBR 1.5 and duplicate the texture in the emissive texture, and it'll self-illuminate. There it is. It'll self-illuminate, get rid of a lot of the shadows if that's the problem for that item. But if you use self-illuminate, it's going to, and you go to PBR, it's going to lose some of the contrast. So you have to be kind of prepared for that. And everything's a little different, but this is just something you could do if you had to, if everything was too dark or something like that. But it seems to be fine here. I want to undo that. Let's see. I'm not sure. Maybe those are individual items. Windows. White glow 1. White glow. Red glow. Pawn shop glow. It's probably like letterings and things like that. I'm not going through all of them and making them all glow. I need to get the roads. There we go. That's the one that was sticking out the worst for not being anisotropically filtered. Alright, that's good enough. We're going to save all our dirty materials. That's basically everything you've edited already but ain't saved. And then you would set visible mesh final in the inspector with the object selected. Apply all transforms. Or rebuild collisions. Look at me, I'm talking like I'm in Blender still. That's a Blender thing, applying all the transforms. Now, what I meant to say is rebuild collisions. Control F7. Let's get our car here and see how it does. Okay, something more quick. Something fast. The roads still don't look right up there. Probably something else needs to be filtered. Yeah, you gotta remember, if something is less than like 0.5 millimeters thick, the collisions aren't gonna be right. You could fix that. You'd have to make a collision mesh that's bigger than that to put it there. I think it's kind of cool, actually. You don't got many tracks with cartooning. Well, that's pretty much it. Now, since you got the texture saved and this is fine, you can just exit the game. What you'll want to do to make it mobile so you can put it in any level is find the folder that the material got saved to, that you saved, and You'll want to remove all the things that give it locations. So my mind went blank because I'm not in the East Coast. That's the problem. I'm in the wrong place. Let's see. Small city. Alright, so we'll open up the main.material.json, and you can save you a lot of time by copying this here to your clipboard and say search, replace that with nothing. Replace all. Now, all that's in here is the name of the textures, not where they're located, because the game doesn't need to know that. As long as the material file, the textures, and the DAE are in the same place in the same folder, it can be loaded into any level. I'll show you real quick, and then I'll zip this up and share it in the video. So you see how it's unpacked and in like the level, just sitting here like that. So we'll put it in a different level. Copy that. Let's go to say small grid. And you wouldn't have these in here unless you saved the level already. So just any level you want, just make a folder for that level, but name it the same as the level. And then inside of there, paste that folder. Or you could just load the level, go to the World Editor F11 and hit Save Level, and that'll create the folder also. But that is the user folder. It's not a mod folder for mods as far as zipped mods. If you got the mods that are zipped, they go in the zip spot. But this is where you just put things when you want to work on them or make new stuff. So, go under our asset browser, you should be able to just drag it in here. Just like that. And it'd work that way with any of them. It's low poly, so I mean you can definitely make a lot of them, not have to worry about performance. Now, some of those models on Sketchfab, like entire cities, for example, some of those things are super, like a lot of polys. There are a lot of polys. But yeah, you make you a big old city with this stuff. Kind of turn them different ways so it don't look like the same thing. Oh, yeah, I forgot. If you forget like that, you can pick them all and just go to the inspector and with them all selected, tell it visible mesh final. So they all got the collisions turned on and rebuild collisions. Of course, traffic won't work on here because there's not any AI roads made, but you could. If you could do it, you would just have to make AI roads. You'd have to go into here and make decals. Decal road editor, and you would get it. That looks like the perfect width too, doesn't it? You basically make a decal blank white, but you tell it, where's it at? Drivability 1. That made it a AI road. So traffic can spawn on it, but it's not going to spawn on it until you reload it. So we'll just do this small section. trying to do. That's good enough. Save level, reload level, spawn traffic. 1 gig free. I'm about to run out of hard drive space. Yeah, I need to stop the video or I'm not gonna finish. But yeah, they'll be in there now when you respawn it. Let me see if I can do it real quick. Shit. Damn, I'm tired of running out of hard drive space, man. It's kind of annoying. See?